How to find the perfect house in DeSoto, Texas. That is exactly what we're covering in today's video. So as you know, in this series, the How to Find That Perfect House series, we go through all the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and break each city down, look at the real estate, analyze a property, go through different financing options, and go into property taxes and everything in between. So we cover every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So at this point, we are covering DeSoto. If we've missed a city or if we haven't gotten to your city of choice, let us know in the comment section down below. We can absolutely get to it. Just wanted to make that offer. Now, as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way because we got to get going. We are moving and grooving now. So let's find this perfect house for sale in DeSoto. So what we're going to do now is going to find what type of properties are available in DeSoto, and we're going to actually look at one particular property that we find right around the average price point to see what we got going on. So we have 245 properties available for sale in DeSoto right now at the time of this recording, with the average price point being $462,000. So we're going to select that, and we're going to go to just single family residences because that's the breakdown that we're doing today. And we're going to get to work. So for those of you wondering where the heck DeSoto, Texas is, DeSoto is south of Dallas. So it's almost to the southernmost part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which at some point it was the southernmost. But at this point, you're going to have Waxahachie claim that title, or some of you might think it's Midlothian. I personally think it's Waxahachie. That's the furthest south right now, even though there's a little bit of a gap here. However, with that being said, with so much growth happening in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, thousands of people moving into the area every single month, it's going to get there very, very soon. So check out DeSoto. You see that it's pretty much landlocked. There's not going to be a lot of new construction in this area. There's not going to be a ton of growth in this area. So you're looking at a lot of resale homes, or mostly resale homes, as we go through the properties, as we're going to analyze one particular one. Now, as we're finding that perfect house in DeSoto, we need to ask ourselves three questions. What commute do we want? What community are we trying to build? And also, what's the cost? How can we actually afford it? So when it comes to the commute, this is one of those questions that every single home buyer should be asking themselves. If what type of commute should I let me rephrase that. What type of commute do I want if I'm looking in DeSoto? So oftentimes you're going to be going to work unless you're retired. So you have some commitments outside of your house, which means that it would involve you commuting. Now, a lot of the location that you end up going with is going to revolve around where you happen to work, which ultimately forces you to ask the question, well, how much of a commute do I feel comfortable with? So that's the first question you need to ask. The second question is, what type of community am I looking for? Am I prioritizing the school district? Am I prioritizing the recreation scene, the nightlife scene, what type of community am I looking for, right? And then the third question to ask yourself is, can I afford it? What's the cost? So in this particular case, check out the real estate that's available for sale right now. Oh, what's going on here? Is this zoomed in? Let's zoom out. Okay, so I think that'll be good. All right, here you go. Sorry about that. The zoomed in was a little bit off. Okay, so let's check out the properties available for sale right now in DeSoto. So the least expensive home for sale at the present moment is $217,000 in DeSoto, Texas. So you're going to see a good amount of properties up to $300,000. So you're going to have 12, 15, no, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 20 homes available for sale right now under $300,000. So if you have a pre-approval in hand for up to $300,000 and are looking for a city that is pretty close to Dallas, or as close to Dallas as possible, with reasonable real estate prices or more affordable real estate prices, DeSoto should be on your list. You have about 20-ish homes available for sale right now under $300,000, which is a rare find, especially this close to Dallas. So again, if you have this budget to work with, that's what you're going to want to check out. DeSoto would be the play for you. Now, most of the opportunity you're going to find around the $400,000 to about $500,000 price point. Well, to be fair, about 350 to about 500,000. You're going to find the most possible options when it comes to real estate. So here you're going to have quite a few homes here in the 300,000s as well. But then right around that $350,000 mark, you're going to see an explosion of properties available for sale that are right around that price. So once you get to the 350 to about $500,000 mark, you're going to see a ton of options. You're going to see options that get up to the 3,000 square foot mark and beyond for sure. So you're still under, you just hit 400,000 and you're covered about, we've covered about 80, 90 properties or so that are still under 400,000. So check out that beautiful home at $405,000. Right? So there's a lot of options. Now, what does luxury look like in DeSoto? Let's check that out before we go into an actual property. So this property right here at $1.4 million, that's the most expensive home for sale in DeSoto right now, and 6,100 square feet. So this is the luxury side of DeSoto, which has a lot of massive homes, has a lot of homes that are just gigantic with a ton of room. So if you're looking for the luxury space and looking for the best bang for your buck, DeSoto is going to be hard to beat, just truth be told. But with that being said, we need to find a house that we're going to do a deep dive on. We're going to look at the property from the pictures, from the description, and the property attributes before we go into the breakdown of the financing that we're going to use to purchase the home. So for our purposes today, what we're going to do is we're going to stay in the 400,000s. I think it feels right in the 400,000s. That's going to give us the most options. It's going to give us a good opportunity to look through a few numbers and look through a few properties that are going to do DeSoto right. It's going to be a good representation of what's available for sale in DeSoto. So we're going to check out this property listed at $485,000. It's 2021 build. So you're looking at a 3-year-old property, which is practically new, almost a fourth of an acre, and almost, 27, we'll call it 2750 square feet, which you're looking at a larger home. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here for a quick second and look at the images. We're going to look at the pictures that are available for us on the online portal. So we're going to go to Zillow because oftentimes our home search starts on Zillow. So I want to give you a common interface that you can come back to time and time again. So we're going to start here with Zillow, and as a quick reminder, this home is listed at $485,000, 4 beds, 2 full baths, 2745 square feet, which is on a fourth of an acre and has been on the market for about 45 days. So once we're talking about 45 days, you're looking at a homeowner that is considering less than asking price offer. So as you see here recently, well, about 3 weeks ago, you had a price cut of $4,100. So this was listed most likely at $490, $495, something like that. We're looking at a situation where you might find a deal depending on how long and how much activity the homeowner has had. So I'm gonna share a few additional details that are going to be helpful in your home search as we get going. But before I do that, I want to share, as we go through these images, 2 quick disclaimers. Number one, I'm going to make some comments on minor things, not for the sake of being picky, not for the sake of throwing shade or being a hater. I share the smaller things or point out the smaller things because it's often in the smaller things that give us information about the larger things, meaning landscaping. We might see it as a minor thing and I might point that out. Well, the reason I do that, again, it's not because I'm trying to be critical, but I point that out because the smaller things probably let us know that the larger things, if they were not taken care of, lets us know that the larger things probably weren't either, right? So if we didn't take care of the smaller things, most likely the HVAC, the water heater, the roof, the foundation, the major appliances probably weren't taken care of as well, right? So just want to point that out. So I'll be very mindful and very respectful in my comments, but I do like to call that out ahead of time. The second reason that I make some of the comments that I do, again, not trying to be hateful, but I make these comments because oftentimes when you're going to, as an example, if you're going to go see this home right now, you're going to spend maybe 30, possibly 45 minutes in this home before you actually make your decision of purchasing. So you're talking about spending 30 minutes and making a decision valued at $485,000. That's kind of quick. So oftentimes, especially if you're a new home buyer, you don't really realize how little time you spend in the actual property that you're going to purchase before you actually make the decision, right? So it's just almost anticlimactic, if you will, especially if this is your first home. So again, I want to keep those little disclaimers out there real quick before we got into it. Now, let's dig into this. We're going to look at the images, then we're going to go into the description and look at the property attributes before we finance this or look at 3 different ways to purchase this property through different loans. All right, so right out of the gate, I do like the it's a really good looking house. You have the stone, you have the brick, the yard and the landscaping. It's fine, it's fair. It's not the most perfect. It's also not the worst, if you will. Something I really like seeing, especially in newer homes, and I mean especially in newer homes, is the fact that the gutters have already been installed. Right? So with older homes, it's a little bit easier to find homes that have gutters already installed because multiple homeowners have already lived in that property. But this home you're talking about 3-year-old property. So somebody has already made that investment, so you don't have to. And it does look like it wraps around through the entire house, which is good. So you don't have to make that capital expense whenever you purchase. Now they have had some landscape in here, which is awesome. Now here, it almost looks like it's angling down. It almost feels like this is angling down. So my only thing there, unless when you actually see it, it'll make sense. But it almost feels like there could be some ponding of water, and that's probably what you're seeing here. I originally thought it was oil, but it looks like some bit of pooling of water here because it's kind of angled that way. So that's something I would consider looking at, because if it rains too much and the runoff becomes a little bit too much to manage over here, then we are looking the water going into the garage, which obviously is not a good thing. So we have LVP in place, so luxury vinyl planks in place. And we start off in the living room. So living room has high ceilings right here. So I like these stair step ceilings. I know that's not what they're called, but that's what I call them. And you have a little game room here. I wonder where this game room is at. This looks to be in, I don't know where that's at, but it looks pretty nice. We have a storage unit back here, which is mighty well built out. It has a nice proper door, has a barn style doors over here. So I don't know if they're storing lawn equipment or if they have a secondary like mini house back here, which is interesting. Right, so you have your sidewalk right out front, and then you have the back. So this is where I get into trouble. This is why I make the comments that I make. I'm sorry, this is why I make the disclaimers that I make of. Notice the images and the order. There's just no flow to them. And this is me being super critical. These are the same things that I would share with my real estate agents, my listing agents, and our transaction coordinators. Whenever we upload images for our listings, we want to create a story through our images. And right now, this one is a bit disjointed. So we have some front shots. We went immediately into the living room, then some game room, and then now the backyard. Then we went back to the front yard. So that's something that just be mindful of that. You as a consumer, you as a purchaser, and you especially as a homeowner, whenever you put your property out to market, just make sure that, again, just the structure and the flow makes sense for that person that it could potentially be looking at your home for sale. Now, is this ultimately going to keep it from selling? No, of course it's not. But every little thing helps, because this is really oftentimes the only exposure you as a homeowner are going to have with your buyer. So you as a consumer right now, you as a buyer, do want to be mindful of that as well. I do like this brand new fence, basically. So it's a 3-year-old fence. It's very well taken care of. But this is a 6-foot fence, right? All right. I mean, this is a beautiful property. A nice pergola would be so cool here. Now, something else to note here is I did make a mistake. I did assume that the gutters were all around the house. It turns out that they are not. There's they end at the front, so they're not wrapping around, and they're not in the back either. So just be mindful of that. Now we're back in the game room here, and we have the pretty awesome looking kitchen. So you have your front door there. Immediately to the left, there's probably a room somewhere, or to your right there's a room. You have the kitchen. towards the front right. Good, nice open space. Some more kitchen shots. I'm sorry, some more living room shots. This is a bedroom. This is not the primary bedroom. So right as you walk in, you're going to have your dining room, and there's probably like a little butler's pantry somewhere between the formal dining and the living room. Now you have your second full bath. This is a room that is being used as a office. Good looking office. And this is your room. I'm going to guess room 2 or room 3. And then, okay, so as you're coming in on the left-hand side, you're going to have your office. So it looks like they have 2 office setups. And this is your primary bedroom, primary bath. So you have his and hers separated by the garden tub there. And then you have your primary bedroom. I do like the size of this bedroom. There's a ton of furniture here, like big furniture here. So, and it fits right in line. So this is a massive room. This is probably a 16 by 14 or something to that effect. Now this is an electric kitchen here. So you have electric, not gas. You have your backsplash here with some pretty cool looking tiles. So this is marble countertops, very modern. Again, this is a 3-year-old property, so that makes sense. All right, so let's keep it going. Let's check out the description real quick and then get into some math. 2 years young. This beautiful home comes with a 10 by 20 she shed. Okay. Valued at $10,000, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2 dining areas, and a study round out this amazing value in a house. A backyard complete with the flourishing flower bed adjacent to an extended patio is great for outdoor gatherings. Step inside and you'll be greeted by a bright and open floor plan that's perfect for both family living and entertaining. The well-appointed kitchen features sleek, modern appliances and ample counter space. You'll also find a butler's pantry, and a walk-in pantry, providing additional storage space and making meal preparations a breeze. The dining areas offer versatile space for formal and casual dining options, accommodating your lifestyle with ease. It also has an 80 by 8 foot. It was an 8 foot privacy fence. I misjudged that. Submit an offer today. All right, so let's look at some attributes that are going to be important for us as we go through and calculate some property taxes and our payment. We are in the city of DeSoto, of course. This is in Dallas County. It was built in 2021, which again is 3 years old. And then taxes is $5108, which is actually super duper low. Now, forget that you saw this number because this is not going to be the property taxes that you pay. The property taxes that you pay are going to be different, given that the assessed value that you're going to have on this home is going to be different, drastically different. I'll tell you why here shortly. And because your home exemptions are going to be different, most likely. We'll talk about that here shortly. I just want to point this out because sometimes we make the budget based off of what these property taxes are as opposed to the property taxes that you're going to get. So I'll show you how to calculate that shortly. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2,745 square feet, a fourth of an acre. Cool. Price history. Okay, so it's been on the market a little bit, right? So it started. Oh wow, look at this pricing. $559. Then we dropped. Then we dropped. Then we dropped. So we dropped to $485. All right. So we've been on the markets for February. So we have somebody that has been on the market for a little bit. All right, so heating, cooling, utilities, possession, single association fees, $500. This looks about right. This is probably an annual fee. So about $500 is right. So oftentimes you see association fees here be an amount, and they're what appear to be low, and which means that you're being charged multiple times throughout the year, whether that's semi-annually or quarterly. But in this case, we're talking about, I'm pretty sure this is a yearly fee, and we'll see that here shortly. DeSoto ISD, that's going to be important for us as we make our calculation for property taxes. And association fee frequency is annually. Perfect. So this $500 annually. All right, so those are the key pieces of information that I personally needed. Of course, you're going to want to go and look at it yourself. However, we need to get to work now. What we're going to do is we're going to calculate the price, the mortgage payment. We're going to calculate how much money we'll have in equity within a certain amount of years. We're going to make a lot of calculations based off of how we finance our purchase here in DeSoto. So we're going to buy this DeSoto property for $485,000. So $485,000. That is our purchase price of this DeSoto property. We're going to start with HOA. So what we're going to do is, since this HOA is $500, we're going to budget $500 per month, even though it's technically not going to be included in our monthly payment. So it's about $42 per month. So that's what you're going to be paying roughly per month. Again, you're not going to be paying this monthly. It's not in your mortgage payment. With your HOAs, you're going to get invoiced at the beginning of the year, and you're going to be expected to pay lump sum that $500 that was quoted. Let's talk about your home insurance premiums. Home insurance premiums are at an all-time high. So what we have to do is we're going to budget what we estimate the home insurance premiums to be on the purchase of this property, so we have a realistic expectation of what it looks like. So the easy math that we do here is, again, this is just a ballpark. We use 0.75% of the value of the home. We use that as the we use that as the home insurance premium amount. So we do 0.75%, translates, if you put it into a decimal, into 0.0075 times the purchase price of the home, gives us $3,637 in our yearly home insurance premium. Now, this is an estimate. Some of you are going to have higher, some of you are going to have lower. But at the end of the day, what we're going to budget for home insurance in this particular property is $303. Now, I can tell you that most likely this is almost too conservative, too high, given the fact that this is a newer property. But what is going to go into your home insurance premium, the cost that you're going to be paying, is the age of the home, the claims that the home has had, the claims that you have made on previous purchases or previous homes, the location of the home, if it's in Tornado Alley, if it's in Hell's Alley, which basically hailstorms are a way of life in North Texas, so you're pretty much in that alley right now, just as a heads up. There's a lot of different things that go into the home insurance premium. So again, this is just a ballpark. Some of you are going to get higher, but most of you are going to get lower than this amount that I just shared. What we do need to spend some time with, really grappling with, is our property taxes. Property taxes are something that are so misunderstood, so miscalculated, that we need to spend some time to really understand how to get this number right, especially if we're buying this home in DeSoto, because DeSoto has a lot of similar characteristics to Cedar Hill, to Duncanville, to Red Oak. So DeSoto is surrounded by very similar real estate, very similar cities around it. So we're talking about Duncanville, we're talking about Cedar Hill, we're talking about Red Oak right over here. Where are we? Red Oak right over here. So it has a lot of similar characteristics. And one of the biggest distinctions, though, is going to be how much you pay in property taxes. So we have to figure out what that is. So we're going to go with DeSoto property tax rate. Now, before we dig into this, let's talk about property taxes for a quick second. Property taxes, first thing to understand about property taxes is that when you become a homeowner, you are paying property taxes. That might be new to you if you've been renting your entire life. So property taxes are a real thing. Number two, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the property tax rate, the percentage that gets applied towards the home, that gets multiplied by your assessed value of the home, essentially how much you're paying in taxes per year, it ranges from 1.8% to about 3%. So it's 1.8 to about 3% in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So that's very important to note, given the fact that if you're coming from another state, it might feel a little bit high. Reason being is because it is. The property tax rate in Texas is the 6th highest in the entire country, with New Jersey being number 1. Right? So you're looking at the range here in Dallas-Fort Worth is about 1.8 to about 3% just in property taxes every single year. The third thing to understand about property taxes before we go into actually finding the property tax rate is there's about 5 numbers that you'll want to find to really get your true property tax rate. So again, there's up to 5 numbers. Number 1 is the city tax rate. 2 is the county tax rate, 3 is the ISD tax rate. These three numbers, regardless of the city that you go with in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you need to find these numbers for each one of those cities and add them together at minimum. City, county, ISD. And we're going to find that right now for DeSoto in 2 seconds. The other two numbers that often come up are higher education tax, so think of community college, and a hospital network tax. So think of, if you're in Dallas as an example, think Parkland Hospital Network. So city, county, ISD, plus higher education tax and a hospital network tax, oftentimes. So with that being said, let's find that information right now. We're going to go to the city website and see if we can find this information. So right out of the gate, we do. 2020, is there a more revised one? In Dallas, DeSoto, Texas. Okay, so they give us two different numbers. You're gonna see the Dallas ISD one, which this home in DeSoto that we're buying right now is not in Dallas ISD. And how do we know that? Because it tells us. So this home is zoned for DeSoto. So DeSoto, when it's all said and done, has a 2.85% property tax rate. Now, if this home would have been in Dallas ISD, you're paying slightly less. Well, actually, in percentage terms, you're paying significantly less, 2.64%. So here's what this means. Let's break this down to those numbers that I just referenced. You have the city tax rate being 0.705, which this is that first number that we talked about. Truth be told, this is actually among the highest in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But it's not the entire story. Remember, there's up to 5 numbers that we're going to find. In this particular case, there's actually 6. But we'll get to that here shortly. So the city of DeSoto, it has this property tax rate. The second thing is the the county, which is 0.24. That's any city in the Dallas County is going to have this rate. The DeSoto ISD, this is among the highest as well that you're going to find. 1.49%. It is what it is. There you go. And then the Dallas Community College, so this goes to that fourth number that I was mentioning that could show up, which is a higher education tax. So here you have 0.124. Parkland, it was that fifth number that I was mentioning in this particular case. Since this is Dallas County, we are talking about Parkland Memorial Hospital. And then the Dallas County equalization tax, which is minor, but still is here. You're going to notice that it is applied to both ISDs. It's 0.01, right? So this one is very ultra rare that shows up. There's probably like a special project that's going on. Something's going on here for this particular area that it got added on for some additional funding. You're not going to find this particular tax across all of the cities in the Dallas County. You're just not. But with that being said, now that we know our property tax rate is 2.85%. So we're going to convert this into a decimal. So we're going to go 0.028. So 0.028 is how we convert this into a decimal. And we're going to multiply that times the value of the home. Now this is multiplying it times the market value of the home. That leaves us with property taxes of 13,822. So we're going to divide that by 12. And then we're going to pause for a quick second and have a little chit chat. Remember when we looked at the property itself and I said, hey, don't get married to this amount because that's not going to happen. Several reasons for this. All right, so let's unpack this for a quick second. This number, rest assured, is overvalued. This is very conservative. You're most likely not going to be paying $13,000 per year in property taxes. Most likely you're going to be paying something in the ballpark of $12,000 or so, give or take a couple $100. Now, why am I doing such an overestimate? Well, the reason being is because although we have the property tax rate, which you can find it online as well, because we have the property tax rate, we need to multiply that times the assessed value of the home. However, we did not do that. We multiplied it times the market value of the home. The market value of the home is what you sell this property for, whatever somebody's willing to buy it for. So this is the market value of the home, and we're assuming it's $485. The assessed value is going to be a percentage of this. That's how the Central Appraisal District will determine how much you owe in property taxes. They use the assessed value. Now, with the assessed value, it already starts most likely within a percentage of this. So there's already that baseline, if you will. Plus, you have the opportunity to protest property taxes. So you're protesting and bringing this assessed value down. Plus, you have exemptions that you can apply, which also make this lower, such as homestead exemptions, if you're over 65, if you have disability. There's several different exemptions that you can apply here. So that's going to drive it even lower. Now, you may be thinking, well, Jaime, why the flip? Do all property taxes, are they this far? Because you're talking about twice as much. The reason that somebody, aka the homeowner, was paying this amount at some point in time was because this is a relatively new property. This was built in 2021. So essentially you're looking at going on about 3 different cycles of property taxes. Whenever a builder builds, they're being taxed on the land itself. They're not being taxed on what's called the improvement. An improvement, this is the building basically. They're not being taxed on that. So whenever a new community goes up, honestly, it's like a free-for-all. It's a wild, wild west where the community starts getting taxed at different rates. You're going to have some homeowners that protest like crazy and they get the lowest values. You're going to have some others that don't protest and they just blindly accept whatever the Central Appraisal District gives them as property taxes. So you have all of these different taxes amounts that people start with. So as an example, if they bought this house for $300,000, let's just call it that, 3 years ago, the Central Appraisal District would say, well, this home is valued at $275,000. Well, that homeowner most likely protested and brought it down further through the protesting, right? So they've set their floor, they've set their anchor. And once they set their anchor, this is the most important part. So hopefully I'm making sense here. Once they've set their anchor here at the lower, let's call it 275, once they've set their anchor there and they apply their homestead exemption, which everyone that lives in that home as a primary resident, or to apply your homestead exemption, you need to have that home as your primary residency. Once they apply that homestead exemption, they have capped their increase in property taxes, because there's every single year, as the home values continue to rise, there's a cap on how much they could actually raise your assessed value. So here, remember, let's just say the assessed value got pegged lower because of where they had their first assessed value after the home was built, and you apply that homestead exemption, you start at a much lower number because of that. And then because you apply that homestead exemption, there's a cap on how much the assessed value can go up. So you have this case where it's going lower, where it got capped. Well, the moment that this homestead exemption changes, aka you buy the property, this is going to skyrocket. So I know I said so much. Hopefully this is making sense. If not, let me know in the comment section down below. But I'm really trying to illustrate what's going on in the situation. So we'll continue going. I could talk property taxes for hours. But trust me, use more of this budget. Do not use this number, because this is a number that will not exist for you. I can guarantee you that you're not going to get anywhere close to paying these property taxes. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. So I would much rather you err towards this number into the $1,000 or so per month on this property than you think I'm paying $5,100 $5,100 per year on property taxes. Here, you're not going to be doing that. I can guarantee you that. All right, so let's keep going. Conventional 5%, FHA 5%. Let's talk about loans for a quick second. When you buy a property, oftentimes you're going to be using a loan. Now, when you buy a property, you have various loan options. Most of the loans that are out there right now, or the two most common types of loans are going to be conventional loans and FHA loans. While there's many other types of loans, these are the two that we're going to focus on because they're the two most common ones. Now, each one of these loans have their own criteria to qualify, and also each one of these loans has different elements to them. So with a conventional loan, as an example, the minimum down payment that you would have would be 3%. With an FHA loan, the minimum down payment that you're expected to have is 3.5%, so just slightly higher. Those are minimums. Now, there's this myth out there that you need 20% down to purchase a property. That is not a thing. We just talked about the minimum down payment that you need. The reason that 20% comes up in a lot of conversations is because if you put less than 20% down in either a conventional or an FHA loan, you're paying what's called mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is I am getting blown up with text. I am so sorry. Mortgage insurance is an insurance that the lender puts on you in the event that you default. So not only do they take their property back, which they were going to do anyway, regardless if that mortgage insurance was in place or not, but they're using this mortgage insurance to lower their risk, also recoup some of their expenses. This mortgage insurance is designed to do that, which also means that with this mortgage insurance, you're paying an additional fee, you're paying an additional expense for that insurance. So not only does the lender insulate themselves a little bit from the risk, but you're also paying for this luxury. And I'll show you how much mortgage insurance happens to be. Last thing I'll say about these two types of loans before we move on. If you get a conventional loan, this mortgage insurance does apply because you would have less if you put less than 20% down. However, eventually, once you do own over 20% of your home as you're making payments year over year, eventually that mortgage insurance falls away, meaning you no longer have to pay it. With an FHA loan, on the contrary, on the other side of the equation, if you get an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance, which is several $100 per month, will continue to happen every single month. You do not get rid of that until that loan is either satisfied or you refinance or sell the property. Really, those are the only two ways to get rid of mortgage insurance. In other words, you not having that FHA under your name any longer. Let's continue. We're going to put 5% down as this first scenario and the second scenario, and then we're going to do 20% down on the conventional 20% down scenario. So you see the differences of what mortgage insurance does when it doesn't do it. Interest rates. Whenever you take out a loan, you're going to be paying for that loan. It's interest. So the mortgage interest, the interest rate is going to change by the hour. So the best thing that you're going to do whenever you're watching this video a month from now, year from now, 30 years from now, is you're going to go to Google. You're going to go and ask what is the interest rate right now for buying a house, or something to that effect. You're going to go here to bank rate, and you're going to find what the average is right now. This way you get at least a reasonable estimate of what you can expect to pay. So right now the average at the time of this recording is 6.38% on a 30-year fixed. 6.38. So we're going to use that number. We're going to use 6.38. We're going to use 6.38. We're going to use 6.38. Now, truth be told, these three loans are all going to have a different interest rate. Some of them are going to be lower, some of them are going to be higher, some of them are going to be lower. The reason I'm using the exact interest rate here is because it's an average. Some of you are going to get higher rates, some of you are going to get lower rates depending on credit, depending on the amount that you borrow, depending on a lot of different factors. So I'm just going to use this to keep this as simple as possible. Now let's talk about points. Points are the ability for you to buy down the interest rate. So once you submit all your documentation to a lender, they're going to issue you a quote, basically, or the par value of saying, hey, we can lend you this money and we're going to charge you 6.38%. You have the option of buying down points, meaning you have the option of buying down that interest rate, which is another way of saying prepaying interest. But let's continue. You buy down that interest rate. And this is called buying points. So when you buy 1 point, the cost of that's going to be 1% of the value of the loan. So let's just say the loan is $450,000. 1% of that is $4,500. That would be the cost of buying 1 point. Simply because you buy 1 point does not mean that you lowered your interest rate by 1%. This is not going to get lowered to 5.38%. That's not going to happen. 1 percentage point, the math that I do here on this side of the equation, like how much can I reduce this interest rate, I basically do 1/4 of a percentage point. So I do 0.25%. So basically, if I buy 1 point for $4,500, I can expect roughly this interest rate to drop to 6.13, roughly, give or take a little bit. That's the math that I do whenever I'm buying properties, whenever I'm advising our clients on interest points. But this is something that the lender is the one that's going to quote you on. You can buy this amount of points, it's going to cost you this amount, and it's going to lower your interest rate by this, which means that your monthly mortgage payment is going to drop by X, Y, and Z. They're the ones that do that, but I like to give some rough estimates so you're not flying blind. Lender fees. Lender fees are also going to go, just going to be across the board. So just budget about 2% for your lender fees regardless of the loan. Just have some number there. But once you start getting quotes back from your Allied First Banks of the world, your Rocket Mortgages of the world, your Chases of the world, your Wells Fargos of the world, just add the lender fees here and quote them appropriately. Monthly mortgage insurance. This is something that's going to apply because you on option 1 and option 2, because we didn't put at least 20% down on the purchase of this home, and you're going to see that moving forward. Extra payments. As you get going, you have the option of making extra payments towards your principal, which is not a bad strategy at all. You get to map out how much more you want to do per month, or if you want to do a lump sum. And the reason I encourage you to go ahead and at least give yourself a visual here with extra payments, we're not going to actually put a number here, but I just want to show you, like, for when you get this is linked down below, by the way, or you can go to winthehouseyoulove.com and get this exact same tool. The reason I want you to go and at least look at this number is because, or input something, is because I want you to see how much faster you can pay off loans and how much less you're going to pay for these types of loans. It's very valuable, very visual thing to see. Now, with that being said, speaking of visual, this is the visual of how much the loan is going to cost you. These 3 options that we went with: conventional 5%, FHA 5%, conventional 20%. We see that the least expensive loan, so the actual cost of the loan, is going to, after 10 years, would be $230,000 for this conventional loan in interest, right? You still have, if you bought points or you added your lender fees, you were going to add them here. With an FHA 5%, if you were to buy this house with in DeSoto for 5% down, this is how much you would have paid in interest in the first 10 years. This is how much you would have paid in mortgage insurance, and how much you would have paid in financing fees, or the financing fee, which is 1.725% of the value of the home, because it is an FHA loan. If you get a conventional loan, that financing fee does not exist. What does exist is that mortgage insurance that we talked about. And this would be the interest. So this gives you a calculation and gives you a visual of how much you're paying depending on the loan that you're going with. So if you take this loan all the way out to maturity, you see how much it would have cost you if you would have done an FHA 5%, a conventional 5%, and a conventional 20%. It gives you all the breakdown here. So this is something that you're going to want to check out as you're as you're comparing loans. But let's talk this even further. Let's talk about monthly payments. Let's go in year 1. What will your monthly payments look like? Well, in year 1, roughly, your monthly payment for your conventional 20% would be $3,918. For your FHA 5% would be $4,613. For your conventional 5%, it would have been $4,602,000. Remember, we're making this calculation based off of 3 scenarios that we're using to buy this DeSoto property for $485,000. This is what the math that we're doing with right now. Let's continue. One commonality that you're going to find across all 3 loans, regardless if you got a conventional 5, FHA 5%, conventional 20%, you're going to find and honestly be shocked at how little goes into your principal and how much goes into your interest at the beginning of the loan. This is year 1. For the first 20 years of this loan, remember this loan is 30 years. For the first 20 years of this loan, most of the time you're going to be paying more towards interest every single month than you are towards the principal. It's not until year 19 and a half or so that it switches, where you're finally paying more towards principal than towards interest. Don't ask me why, but that's the case. That's what's going to happen. And this gives you, again, the estimate of how much you're paying in property taxes, which is high. here. This is the estimate is higher as a reminder. Homeowners insurance, this is an estimated premium. The mortgage insurance, these particular loans do have mortgage insurance because we didn't put 20% down. Your homeowners insurance, this is budgeted in here, although you're not paying it in your monthly mortgage payment. The HOA fee gets billed to you at the beginning of the year via invoice, and you pay it in one fell swoop. We just show it here so you can budget. But let's continue. At any point in time with this tool, which again is linked down below, make sure you check that out. At any point in time, you get to see how much equity you own in the home. So if you map this out to about year 21, you're going to see the power, or really the difference of having paid more into the interest than into the principal. In other words, how much you owe. So if we go to year 21, you would think, given that 66% already done with the loan, you would think that you would own at least 66% of the home, and you would be wrong. After year 21, you own 51% of your home, 51% of your home, and 59% of the home, depending on the loan that you got. The reason that it's not, in line with the amount of years, your equity that is because at the beginning of your loan, you're paying more towards the interest than you are into the principal, into the amount that you actually own. So what's shocking here and what's really eye-opening is that in the last 9 years of your loan, that's when you earn 49% of your equity. That's the big distinction that you need to understand of paying towards interest versus paying towards principal. Now you may be thinking, well, hell, then let's put all of it towards principal. I wish mortgages work that way, but they don't. So if you have the ability, if you have the ability, pay more towards principal in addition to it. So that second section that we just briefly, third section that we briefly skimmed through, make some extra payments if you're able to. If not, then you're not, okay, whatever. But if you are able to, this is a very valid option. You're going to see how much faster you pay off your loan and how much you save. So just wanted to make that illustration. The only thing I want to talk about here in the loan details is this. When your mortgage insurance falls away on this conventional 5% down, you're going to see that it falls away after 10 years and 2 months. This is not factoring in the appreciation of the home. This is just on paper. The mortgage insurance falls away in about 10 years. But let's talk about the exit strategy, because this is something that our clients really appreciate us covering with them once they have our discovery call with us. In our discovery call, we talk about our exit strategy, meaning that on average, a homeowner is going to stay in that home for about 10 years. That's the national average. So we want to see and predict or really analyze what type of investment we're about to make. So if we buy this DeSoto home for $485,000, we essentially want to see in these next 10 years, what was the cost? What was the cost of home ownership versus renting? And you're going to see that math compared apples to apples. So we're going to assume very basic assumptions. Let's just say that the home appreciates by 3% every single year. That's very reasonable. Let's also assume that after those 10 years, on year 10, we're going to sell this house and we're going to spend about 6.5% selling the house. Sorry, something got in my eye. Selling the house. This 6.5% is going to have the realtor fees. It's going to have the title fees. It's going to have maybe some repairs in between. Whatever you want to budget for cost selling, that's what you can use. But 6.5 is very reasonable. Taxes. We're going to also assume that our property taxes are going to increase by 3% every single year, which again is very reasonable. It's very likely that this is going to happen. We're also going to assume that the homeowner's insurance is going to rise by 3% as well. It costs so much to rebuild now. So we're going to give ourselves a 3% year-over-year rise in home insurance cost. So this is a very realistic scenario. This is not me putting my thumb on the scale of this. This is all very reasonable. And if you want to, go through the extremes here, just make sure you check out the link down below, which gives you this calculator right out front. Or just go to winthehouseyoulove.com, which is the tool where we got this tool from our good friend Kyle Seagraves. All right, so now with the breakdown of that, after 10 years, you're going to see this. You're going to see that with those numbers, The home appreciated here in DeSoto for about $167,000. You're going to see that after 10 years, it's going to cost us about $42,000 to sell this house. Depending on the loan that we got, it's going to either cost us $299,000 for the loan, $308,000 for the loan, or $230,000 for the loan. Property taxes, we're going to pay the same regardless of which of these loans we had. Homeowners insurance would stay the same, and also homeowners association would stay roughly the same. So our housing expense, our housing cost for these 10 years, regardless of the loan that we got for this DeSoto property, was $380,000 for those 10 years. $388,000 for an FHA 5% down, and $311,000 for the conventional 20% down. That was our cost. That was our expense. So what that means for us, if we compare it to a rental, if we were to try to rent this type of house in this type of neighborhood for this type of value, we can budget about $2,800 per month of rent with an annual increase of 3%, which means that our housing expense would have been $389,000. Now, this is all, again, very reasonable numbers. You can move it one way or another. This is something that you can adjust on your own. This is very reasonable. There's nothing here that is unreasonable per se. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. This is if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell in the DeSoto area or around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, our contact information is down below. Outside of that, if you found some value in this video, make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe so you find out when we go live next. Thanks so much. Bye.